So today I'm going to make you experts on adding and subtracting rational expressions. Before we get started, you must know the golden rule of adding and subtracting rational expressions, and that is the only way to simplify an expression with fractions is to find a common denominator between all of the fractions. And if you don't know what that means, you'll find out here in a second. So first, we're going to start with adding rational expressions. Now, for the first one, we have 5 over 2x plus 3 plus 3x over 2x plus 3. Knowing that our golden rule is to find the common denominator between all the fractions, we must first do so. So we look at both our denominators and we see that they both are 2x plus 3 and 2x plus 3. So therefore we know that our common denominator is going to be 2x plus 3. Then we continue by simplifying. So we have 5 plus our 3x over 2x plus 3. And it's just one 2x plus 3 because we know that 2x plus 3 is our common denominator. Now that one's pretty simple because we don't have to factor or do anything too complex. Next, we have the problem x plus 1 over 3x minus 9 plus 5 over x squared minus 5x plus 6. Before we do anything, we must first remember to factor. And remember, like Ms. Stewart said, if you don't know how to factor, then you probably need to go look up some cool, helpful videos on how to factor. So for our first one, we can factor out the 3, and we get 3 times x minus 3. And for x squared minus 5x plus 6, we know we need to find two factors when added equal positive 6. When multiplied equal positive 6, but when added equal negative 5. So we get the factors x minus 3 times x minus 2. Now that we have factored our denominators, we must find the common denominators represented as CD. So we know we have 3 and we have 2 x minus 3's, and since they're the same, they are common, so we write just one x minus 3 and we are left with x minus 2. So for our next step, we're going to multiply each fraction by what is missing. And when we talk about the missing part, we're talking about the missing denominators of our common denominators. So for the first one, we have x plus 1 over 3x minus 9, and our factors are 3 and x minus 3. Now, since we already have 3 and x minus 3, the missing one would be x minus 2, so we would multiply it by x minus 2. And for the next one, we have x minus 3 and x minus 2, so we will multiply it by what is missing, which in this case is 3. Now, once we have multiplied each fraction by what is missing, we write the whole thing as just one large fraction. So we end up with x squared minus 2x plus 1x minus 2 plus 15 over our common denominator of 3 times x minus 3 times x minus 2. And for our last step, we simply just simplify, and we get x squared minus x plus 13 over 3 times x minus 3 times x minus 2. And so for this last problem, it's going to be a little more complex, but I'm not going to really write down all the steps. I'm just going to kind of talk through it. And so for our last problem, we know we must factor first. So we go and factor our denominator and get x plus 4, x plus 1, and x minus 2 times x plus 1. And once we get that, we can go ahead and write out our common denominators, which are x plus 4, x plus 1, and x minus 2. And we know once we get our common denominators, we multiply each side by what is missing. So for x minus 1, we're going to multiply that by x minus 2, and for our 2 we're going to multiply that by x plus 4, and once we do all that we write out our final fraction, which is x squared minus 2x minus x plus 2 plus 2x plus 8 over our common denominators. And I just found out we don't have school tomorrow. Sweet. Which brings us to our simplified answer of x squared minus x plus 10 over x plus 4 times x plus 1 times x minus 2. I'm going to put on here a couple problems that if you want you can go ahead and pause the video and solve them, and then you can re-pause the video and check your answers. Here are the problems where you can go and pause the video and work them out. And here are the answers. Next, we're going to be doing the subtracting of rational expressions, which is the same thing as adding, except that we have to remember to distribute the subtraction sign. So we have the problem x plus 1 over x plus 2 minus x minus 5 over x plus 2. So first we need to factor, but in this case we don't have to factor. So next we find the common denominator. So we know our common denominator is going to be x plus 2. So then we multiply each fraction by what is missing, and since nothing is missing from either of the fractions, we just go and continue and solve. So we get x plus 1 minus x minus 5 over x plus 2. And before we go any further, we must remember to distribute the negative sign, or in these problems also known as the subtraction sign. So once we distribute, we get x plus 1 minus x plus 5 over x plus 2, which simplifies to 6 over x plus 2. So we're going to do another one where you actually have to factor this time and distribute the subtraction sign. Alright, so then we factor our denominators, and when we factor 3x minus 9, we factor out the 3 and get 3 times x minus 3, and for the other one we get x minus 3 times x minus 2, which then gives us our common denominators of 3 times x minus 3 times x minus 2, where we then multiply each side by what is missing. So for the x plus 1 over 3x minus 9, we are missing the x minus 2, and for the opposite side we are missing the 3. So we multiply the 2 and get x squared minus 2x plus x minus 2 minus our 3x plus 15 over our common denominators. Now, we can't forget to distribute our subtraction sign. We have to distribute it to the 3x and the 15. Once we distribute our subtraction sign, we get x squared minus 2x plus x minus 2 minus 3x minus 15 over 3 times x minus 3 times x minus 2, which is x squared minus 4x minus 17 over 3 times x minus 3 times x minus 2 when simplified. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do one last problem where I just talk through the steps. So we know that we must always factor first, so when we factor the x squared minus 36, we get x plus 6 and x minus 6. As well, for the x squared plus 5x minus 6, we get x plus 6 and x minus 1. So then we find our common denominator and we get x plus 6, x minus 6, and x minus 1, where we then multiply by what is missing, and for the 9, we know that x minus 6 is missing, and for the 5, the x minus 1. which then gives us 5x minus 5 minus 9x plus 54 over our common denominators, and leads us to negative 4x minus 49 over x plus 6 times x minus 6 times x minus 1. For these last two problems, you can go and pause the video and work it out, and then if you want, you can unpause it and check your answers. Here is the first one, and here is the second one. So now that you guys are addition and subtraction rational expressions experts, I hope you enjoyed my video.